What's up, guys? We are back. It's your boy Effie with Any Action Sportscast, here to go over UFC 303, Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. We have a new main event for UFC International Fight Week, as we originally had Conor McGregor taking on Michael Chandler. But Conor McGregor got injured, he has a boo-boo on his toe, and now he pulled out of the fight. So we have a completely new main card in general, man. There's 5 fights on that main card, and 3 of them have, both fighters on short notice, man. A complete mix-up, a complete change-up in the fights. But in my opinion, it works out, man. I'm actually more excited for the card now. Man, that Brian Ortega, Diego Lopes fight's going to be a banger. The main event is going to be a banger. Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze is going to be a banger. I'm actually quite excited for this card, man. There's a lot of stylistic matchups on this card that I think are going to lead to a lot of finishes, man. I'm expecting a lot of violence on this card, and I can't wait, man. So without any further ado, let's get right into the fights. And before we get into the very first fight of the card, I have to mention something that's unique to pay-per-views in the UFC. When the UFC has a pay-per-view, they tend to have the big 3 on the broadcast: Jon Anik, Joe Rogan, and Daniel Cormier. And one of my favorite things to do during the pay-per-views is look out for when DC or Joe Rogan yells, "That's tight, it's in." And then the guy just gets out of a submission attempt and the fight continues, man. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I think it's going to happen in this very first fight, man. We have a bantamweight fight between Ricky Simón and Vinicius Oliveira. Ricky Simón comes in with a 20-5 record, currently the favorite at -245, while Vinicius Oliveira comes in as the underdog, 20-3 record, currently +200 on the money line. And the reason I said that is because Ricky Simón's a very good grappler, man. That is his game. He wants to get you down, he wants to strangle you, and he wants to control you when he does get you down. On the feet, man, Vinicius Oliveira is a dog, man. This guy goes forward, a ton of pressure, and a little bit wild in my opinion. Not the most technical guy. I hate saying stuff like that, but man, if you watch guys, it's hard to say, like, he's very sharp, man. Look at this guy's striking, man. He is super wild, throwing from crazy angles, and he's just not as tight and crisp as you would want, especially in this striking defense. But it works for him, man. This guy knows his style. He's a junkyard dog. He's going forward. He's going to bring the fight to you. If Ricky Simón decides to stand and bang with Vinicius Oliveira, he's giving Vinicius Oliveira his best chance to win. If Ricky Simón can change levels and get to those hips, get Oliveira down, I think he's going to have a ton of success. My favorite bet for this fight is Ricky Simón inside the distance. I actually think that Ricky Simón KO is a sneaky play because I think he can mount Vinicius Oliveira, man. I think he can get to his mount. I think he can get to his back and flatten him out, and from there get a ground and pound finish. Obviously, the submission is going to be there for Ricky Simón if he does, if he is able to get Vinicius down. But Ricky Simón's coming off, 2 straight losses now, but I really don't hold them, they're not that bad of performances in my eyes. Yes, he lost to Song Yadong, and that fight was a tough look because he gave Song Yadong his best path, man. Like I said right here with Vinicius, man, he chose to stand with Song Yadong. But guys, I gotta say, Song Yadong can grapple, man. I've seen this guy roll before, man. He is fast, man. He is a strong grappler. I'm not shocked that he was able to defend Ricky Simón and keep him upright the whole fight. Ricky Simón has a ton of experience in the UFC. He has that going for him, but he is going to be the smaller guy in this fight. Vinicius is 3 inches taller and has a longer reach. I just don't think that Ricky Simón is going to have, a tough time getting Vinicius down. I think that Vinicius forward pressure, his reckless striking is going to leave chances for Ricky to change levels, get down, and really shoot in on those hips of Vinicius. Once Ricky locks his hands, get those hands locked on Oliveira, man, I think Oliveira is going for a ride, man. I think Ricky Simón's grappling is really good. I'm super high on his grappling. It is worrisome to see him get knocked out, by guys like Uriah Faber earlier in his career. I don't think Ricky Simón is chinny. I won't say that. I won't go as far as that. But -245, I understand why he's a favorite. To me, that line reflects his, gap in grappling here over Vinicius. Because to me, guys, Vinicius can crack. He has power. He is a dangerous striker on the feet. Guys, look at his last KO, man. His last win, he had one of the sickest KOs of the year. A flying knee in round 3. In a fight where he got taken down 3 times, I gotta say, though. But that knee was insane, man. I remember watching him. My jaw was on the ground. I couldn't believe it. I thought the guy died. Oliveira is a savage. Man, I think Ricky Simón utilizes that grappling, gets this guy down, and has multiple times in the fight where where DC yells, "That's tight," and it's not tight. So my best bet is Ricky Simón inside the distance, and also over 0.5 times Daniel Cormier or Joe Rogan yells, "That's tight," because for as much grappling as I expect to be happening in this fight, Ricky Simón will be attempting those submissions, and we will hear DC scream, "That's tight," when it's not tight. So give me Ricky Simón via, I'm going to go ground pound finish, man. I'm going inside the distance. That's more so my favorite pick, but the way it actually happens, I think it's going to be a KO, man. I think he flans him out on his back, gets the back mount, and puts out Vinicius Oliveira, has the ref pull him off. So give me Ricky Simón. And up next, we have a men's flyweight fight between a UFC debutant and Carlos Hernandez. We have TSURUYA taking on Carlos Hernandez. TSURUYA comes in with a 9-0 record, undefeated prospect with a huge money line at -525. Crazy. And he's taking on Carlos Hernandez, who comes in with a 9-3 record, currently +360. Now, I'm going with the underdog here. I know it's a hot take, man. I know everyone out there thinks that TSURUYA is going to get down and get Carlos down and really work him on the mat, which, hey, man, it's totally possible, man. We've seen Carlos Hernandez get taken down by inferior grapplers, in my opinion. Bro, Ray cannot, honestly cannot, but his striking is not that good. I don't see this guy, for the minutes that it's extended on the feet, looking that good, man. He is slow. His hands are not fast. He has bad striking defense, and he just doesn't have the variety in strikes as Carlos Hernandez. It's just that takedown is going to happen. I know for a fact that TSURUYA is going to take down Carlos Hernandez, and if he does, the fight might be over shortly after. But, bro, -525, what are we doing? There's just no way I'm betting that. I would much rather bet inside the distance, or a method of victory, because at -525, man, that's putting a lot of faith for this guy to get the takedowns. And if he can't get Carlos Hernandez down, what does this fight look like? And if Carlos Hernandez can reverse positions along the clinch and stuff those initial shots, what does this fight look like, man? I think Carlos Hernandez can take this guy into deep waters. I think he can finish TSURUYA if he doesn't get the fight down. I'm going with Carlos Hernandez, man. I know it's a super crazy hot take, but I just am not impressed by the one-dimensional grappler from TSURUYA here. He might be the truth. He might be a great prospect, young fighter. He won the road to the UFC to get here into the UFC. But to me, it's like, man, you got to show me first. You got to show me you can win at this level to be covering, -525. If you're -500, man, you got to finish this fight, and you got to finish it with relative ease, man. I don't know if that happens, so give me Carlos Hernandez. It's dogger pass for me on this fight. I'm not betting this fight, but I'm picking Carlos Hernandez, so give me the UFC veteran, win this fight, and to really shock the world. So I know it could, be over in one round, one takedown, shortly after, but hey, man, give me Carlos Hernandez, going out on a limb here, picking the underdog to win that fight. More so, I'm just hoping that fight doesn't go the distance. I want to see those first two fights end inside the distance. That'd be sweet, because, man, there's a really good chance that this fight goes all 3 rounds, and that would totally suck, man. Up next, we have a heavyweight fight between ANDREI ARLOVSKI, the legend, and BUDAY. ANDREI ARLOVSKI comes in with a 34-23 record, currently +215 on the money line, pretty wide underdog. And BUDAY comes in at 13-2, currently -265 on the money line. A pretty sizable favorite here. And yeah, man, the thing with ANDREI ARLOVSKI is, we all know, man, this guy's a legend, been around forever, super old at this point. He's almost 46 years old. Absolutely wild. He's still fighting professionally in MMA. And the big thing with this is, how does BUDAY approach this fight? BUDAY, if he's able to get ANDREI down, he should have relative, easy time, having success on the mat, man. I don't see how ARLOVSKI is going to get up against BUDAY if he is getting taken down. But if BUDAY decides to strike at range 50 minutes in this fight, he's going to have a tough time separating himself from ARLOVSKI. ARLOVSKI has this weird ability to make his opponents freeze and not throw any volume, and then make the fights close, make them go 3 rounds if he doesn't get finished himself, and then win a split decision or win a decision in general, man. ANDREI ARLOVSKI via decision is probably your best bet if you're going to bet him in this fight. Or even split decision, because it can get sketchy in this fight. To me, he's a better fighter. Obviously, better experience, done more in the sport and everything. But man, Father Time's undefeated. BUDAY definitely has a path to make this fight look super easy for him, and that's to take him down, man. If ANDREI ARLOVSKI gets taken down, gets put on his back, man, he's gonna get worked by BUDAY. But BUDAY just, for some reason, doesn't like doing that. He just goes in there in the UFC and he's striking with guys, man. This guy isn't the most fun fighter to watch. Both these guys are going to be relatively low output, in my opinion, in this fight. And a lot of this fight has a chance to be taking place along the fence in the clinch. And whoever can win those clinch battles, clinch positions, probably is going to have a lot of success in this fight. I wouldn't be shocked, guys, if at multiple times in this fight, the ref comes in to separate them. The ref, comes in, tell them to work. You got to work. You got to work. And then the crowd's booing, and they separate, and they're back at range, probably favoring ANDREI ARLOVSKI, in my opinion. I don't expect ANDREI ARLOVSKI's chin to be totally dust out of nowhere. He's pretty durable, man. And in all reality, this probably goes all 15. And it's really hard to make yourself look good against ANDREI ARLOVSKI. One thing I will say, though, is that he has a ton of scar tissue on his face. It is pretty easy to get cut up now with all that scar tissue accumulated on his face. But, man, having faith in BUDAY is just something that I'm not going to do. -265, I understand why he's a favorite. But I'm not touching it, man. Give me BUDAY to win that fight. I'm getting BUDAY. My official pick is to win via decision. But, man, like I said, ANDREI ARLOVSKI has this weird ability to make those fights super close. If they go all 15, the judges love this guy's style. And I wouldn't be shocked if he wins the decision, man. If you're sitting there, you have a BUDAY on a parlay, you're sitting there sweating this fight, it goes all 3 rounds, and it goes to the cards. Man, I would not be shocked if one of them goes to ANDREI. A split decision here for BUDAY, a split decision for either fighter, really. It's just weird, man. So I can't trust Martin Buday. Buday is not a guy that I'm laying money on or super confident about, and I feel like that's fair. So give me Martin Buday to win via decision in what should be a relatively close fight. But honestly, I'm just hoping that someone gets finished in that fight because I'm not trying to watch 15 minutes of ANDREI ARLOVSKI versus Martin Buday. I'll be honest, guys. Yeah, and up next, we have a women's strawweight fight where, again, we might see another finish. We have Michelle Waterson-Gomez taking on Gillian Robertson. Michelle Waterson-Gomez comes in with an 18-2 record, or sorry, 18-12 record, currently plus 160 on the money line. Gillian Robertson comes in as a favorite with a 13-8 record, currently minus 190 on the money line. Now, this money line is coming in a little bit, so we're recording this on Wednesday night. Tomorrow's a press conference, and Friday is the weigh-ins. Then Saturday they fight. So by the time we're recording this, the lines have moved, right? So they're going up and down. Money's coming in, and they're starting to marinate a little bit in the market. And Robertson was a bigger favorite earlier in the week. Money's coming in on Gomez here, and I don't get it. Not me, man. I'm not touching her. There's two fighters on this card that I love betting against. I just love having an opportunity to make money against them, and Michelle Waterson-Gomez is one of them, guys. So she has lost, I believe, something crazy like 6 fights in a row, right? And her most recent win is against Angela Hill. And you can argue that Angela Hill actually won that fight. So you can argue Michelle Waterson has lost her last 7 fights in a row. She is super old, almost 40 years old, losing all these fights, right? And she's going up against a girl that has a severe grappling advantage over Gomez in this fight. If Gomez gets put on her back, if both her shoulder blades are on the mat, man, Robertson is going to work this girl. I think Robertson can pass Gomez's guard at will in this fight, make Waterson give up her back on the way up, and really make her make a mistake and snatch up a limb, snatch up a neck, and really snatch up a submission here once we get it down. But that's the thing, and this is why I think money's coming in on Michelle Waterson, is her actual takedown defense. Her initial takedown defense on that first shot is actually not bad. She has statistically good takedown defense, but I don't think that Gillian Robertson is going to get denied in this fight. I think that she will relentlessly look for the takedown here because on the feed, Gomez has those push kicks. She has those kicks to the body that she loves to use to keep you at distance and then throw strikes that are this far away from landing. I hate watching this woman fight. She's honestly top 5 worst fighters to watch in the UFC because when she throws a strike, I'm telling you guys, she misses by this much. It's the most bizarre thing to watch. Whereas Gillian Robertson, yeah, she's not the best striker. Her striking is definitely not the best part of her game. It's obviously her grappling, but man, the gap in grappling to me is severe in this fight. Give me Robertson to win this fight. Give me her to submit Waterson in this fight. And if she doesn't, I wouldn't be shocked if Robertson cruises her way to a decision via control time on the mat. It's just one of those things where she only might need 3 takedowns in this fight to win this fight. It's going to be tricky, though, because she does have to get in close that distance, and then grab Gomez. And obviously, Michelle Gomez has that striking. She's like a karate kickboxer. Obviously, her nickname is Karate Hottie. She likes to stand sideways, feet flat, and she's just prodding those kicks out. They're trying to keep you at distance. And they do add up. If you're point fighting, they do add up. They look good for the judges. I'm interested to see that if she attacks the low calf here from Robertson, really limiting her mobility, limiting her power on those initial shots, to get down on those hips from Gomez. But man, if Robertson's able to get Gomez along the cage in the clinch, oof, man, I think that she's going to trip her, throw her down, and then mount her. So give me Robertson to submit Gomez in this fight. I'm actually looking forward to that fight. Everyone wants to crap on women's MMA, but I think that there's a chance that there's a lot of violence in this fight, and Michelle Waterson gets cut up super easy. Like I said, she's almost 40 years old at this point, lost 6 fights in a row, but that takedown defense, it all comes down to that takedown defense, and I don't think it's going to hold up. Give me Gillian Robertson to win that fight, take her down, submit her in that second round. And up next, probably the shortest breakdown of the entire card, we have Payton Talbot taking on YANIS GHEMMOURI in the bantamweight division. Payton Talbot, blue chip prospect, undefeated, 8-0, coming in at minus 1,600. You heard that right, not a typo. Look at the screen, minus 1,600. He's taking on YANIS GHEMMOURI, who comes in with a 12-2 record, currently plus 800. And there's a reason, guys. There's a reason why Payton Talbot is minus 1,600. And for one, it's because when he's a savage, man, this guy's striking is unbelievable. This dude is sharp, quick, and powerful. That's my big takeaway from watching Payton fight. He doesn't need to wind up. He doesn't rear back and throw crazy heavy shots. He is short and quick. A lot of people are comparing him to Sean O'Malley, but I honestly think that he reminds me of Conor McGregor, man. He doesn't need to wind up. He is a sniper with those shots. I couldn't believe the success he was having on Cameron Simon, especially in the pocket, because Payton Talbot is super upright. His neck is straight up. Chin's kind of in the air, but it doesn't matter. He is super calm in the pocket. It's really noticeable by him when you watch him fight. He does not panic. You can throw on him. You guys could be face to face, in your face, throwing like wild, and he is calm as could be, man. This guy has a ton of faith in his striking, a ton of variety, man. This guy rips the body. He is very good at identifying when someone's shelled up, just covering up for dear life, and then from there going to the body and really making them work their guard, and making them make a mistake, and then finding that kill shot. This dude is legit. He's fighting YANIS GHEMMOURI, who, let's face it, guys, he's getting fed to Payne Talbot to lose this fight. He lost his fight against William Gomes in his last fight, and the gap between William Gomes and Payne Talbot is astronomical, man. Guy lost his last fight, and now he's getting even a harder opponent. That's dirty, man. That's dirty by the UFC. And let's be real, guys. The UFC didn't put Payne Talbot on a Conor McGregor card and to fight YANIS GHEMMOURI here to lose. They didn't even put him on this card to get challenged. They put him on this card against YANIS to get a highlight finish, and that's what he's going to do. Payne Talbot's going to win this fight in that first, or sorry, no. I actually have a hot take. In that second or third round, I think that this fight actually does get extended past that round and a half mark, and then Payne Talbot will finish YANIS GHEMMOURI. I definitely expect YANIS GHEMMOURI to try to clinch in this fight because he doesn't want to have extended minutes at range here in this fight because that's Payne Talbot's, like, area of expertise. But man, he's gonna get caught, man. I think Payne Talbot catches this guy in the round 2 or round 3 and gets a late finish in this fight. So give me Payne Talbot to win that fight via knockout. Like I said, round 2 or 3. Minus 1600 though. What are we doing? That's hilarious. Up next, we have a featherweight banger of a fight between Charles Jourdain and Gene Silva. Charles Jourdain comes in with a 15-7-1 record, currently minus 120 on the money line. He is fighting Gene Silva, who comes in with a 12-2 record, currently plus 100 on the money line. Now, in this fight, I'm going with Jourdain, man. I'm actually pretty confident in Jourdain in this fight. I'm kind of suspicious about this money line. I get why it's close because Gene Silva, man, he can crack. Right here on the right side of your screen, Gene Silva, the Brazilian. To me, though, like, he's a powerful striker. Don't get me wrong, but to me, he's low output for one. He doesn't throw in combinations. He just throws heavy overhand rights. His right hand is super deadly, man. He's pushing. He wants to get in your face, and he wants to throw, man. This guy can be sniped. As far as, like, circling the outside and try to counterpunch. And that's something that I really like from Charles Jourdain. He has really good kicks to the body, which I think will help him in this fight, keep Gene at distance. And he has pretty decent grappling, man. I think that Charles Jourdain should have the ability and the success here to take down Gene Silva in this fight. And if you could mix in some level changes here and really get Gene Silva to think about those takedowns, I think it could really help Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain has fought the way higher level of competition, has looked way better against higher level fighters than Gene Silva. And while Gene Silva, you look at his fights, he's just bodying people, just, sending them to the shadow realm. It's one of those things where you got to ask yourself, like, who is he really doing it against? Man, I've seen Charles Jourdain in there with some of the best guys in the division, and he's been around the UFC for a long-ass time. So I'm going with a Canadian here. Give me Charles Jourdain to win this fight. I wouldn't be shocked if Gene Silva, cracks Jourdain and puts him down at least one time in this fight, but this should be a banger. I'm really excited. I'm not touching this fight from a gambling perspective. I'm going with Jourdain here at minus 120. I think that's a fair line, man. Gene Silva, like I said, just a one-punch guy. Like, he needs that one punch, and I really don't like getting behind guys that need that fight moment, or fight-changing moment, Whereas Charles Jourdain is going to be the minute winner in this fight. He's going to be accumulating shots, winning the minutes, looking good for the judges, whereas Gene Silva really needs that one punch, that one shot to change the round and change the complexion of the fight. So give me Charles Jourdain to win that fight and win it via decision. And up next, another banger, man. Really good fights on this card, guys. We have a featherweight fight between Cub Swanson and ANDREI FILI. Cub Swanson comes in with the legend with a 29-13 record, currently plus 205 on the money line. Disrespect. He's taking on ANDREI FILI, who comes in with a 23-11 record, currently minus 250 on the money line. And you won't find me laying minus 250 on ANDREI FILI. No way. I don't care if Cub Swanson is 40 years old. I don't care if he's, super chinny and has no durability at this point in his career. I'm not getting behind ANDREI FILI, man. For as much as everyone that I'm, talking to about this fight, saying that ANDREI FILI needs to wrestle in this fight, I don't see it. I don't see ANDREI FILI, for one, trying to, and for two, having a ton of success if he does, man. On the feet, he can get caught, man. We just saw him get absolutely cracked by Dan Ige, and then, lost that fight, got knocked down, lost that fight. I had Dan Ige via knockout in that fight, and I remember that card because those are the only two bets I had on the entire card. I forget the card, like who was headlining, but I just remember thinking that the only thing that stuck out to me was Dan Ige's money line and Dan Ige inside the distance via knockout, which is what happened because ANDREI FILI got absolutely cracked. ANDREI FILI in the pocket is there to get hit, guys. His hands are low. His hands are by his chin. And Cub Swanson is a dog, man. He is super tight in the pocket. He's very quick with his strikes, very good at bringing the punches back. But one thing that I do worry about Cub Swanson is that durability. I mentioned it earlier in the breakdown. He is 40 years old, and he seems to be getting ripped to the body and ripped to the legs here a lot more recently in his fights. Obviously the face, anyone can get hurt there. He does have a lot of scar tissue up there in age. It's easier to get cut. but he does seem to not be reacting to the body as well as he should be. And then definitely that lead leg. That lead leg is going to be there for Andre Fili to just poke out throughout the whole fight. And I wouldn't be shocked if Fili goes out there and slams that lead leg, and then within like 2 or 3 kicks, the commentator's like, oh man, Cub Swanson's legs all red. Look at that. Well, you know, that wouldn't shock me at all. But I feel like Andre Fili is going to want to give the fans the type of fight that they want to see, and that's a 50-minute brawl. And bro, if you do that, I think Cub Swanson is live to knock him out. I hate when guys get knocked out and then come back relatively quickly. I would much rather have Andre Fili come back later in the year, you know, towards the fall or winter. But he seems to think that, you know, he's going to have a favorable matchup here in this fight against Cub Swanson. I mean, theoretically, Fili does have the ability to win this fight. Mix in the takedowns, mix in the striking at range, throw out more volume than Cub Swanson. But man, I just don't see how he's minus 250 in this fight. I get it. Cub Swanson's old as hell, guys. And he's definitely declining. He's on the back 9 of his career. But man, Andre Fili is just never really that impressive to me. And one thing I gotta mention, guys, go look it up. Go look up on UFC Fight Pass, Shane Shapiro versus Andre Fili. My boy Shane took down Andre Fili in like 20 seconds and then submitted him like 40 seconds later. My boy Shane submitted Fili in like 60 seconds. Everyone's out here talking about how good a grappler he is. And I don't see it, man. I think Cub Swanson could out-grapple Andre Fili, reverse him on the mat, and get to top position. So I'm picking Fili. I'm picking Fili to win that fight, but I'm not touching it. If you're going to gamble on that fight, I'd much rather, you know, dog or pass. But I'm picking Fili. I just think that line is way too wide. I think that Fili should be around minus 160, minus 170 at most, maybe minus 180. When I saw this line, I was like, dang, you're really like, you're really kind of depending on him hurting Cub in this fight, because if it's just a point fight, man, it's going to be close, man. So give me Andre Fili to win that fight via decision, and I can't touch that with my money. So yeah, give me Fili. Up next, the last prelim, the featured prelim on the card, we have Joe Pyfer taking on Marc-Andre Barriault in the middleweight division. Joe Pyfer coming in with a 12-3 record, currently minus 300 on the money line. Marc-Andre Barriault comes in with a 16-7 record, currently plus 240 on the money line. Now, I'm super, like, honestly proud, but I knew this was going to happen, guys. So earlier in the week, I think it was on Sunday, I was looking at the fights, I was looking at, obviously, the tape and stuff. And when I saw this fight, I saw Pyfer at minus 250, right? I saw him at minus like 255, 260 on some other books, but for my book, he was around minus 250, right? I remember thinking, okay, if I'm going to go on Pyfer, I need to get in now, because as the week goes, as we get closer to fight time, his line's going to climb. People are going to be parlaying him. People are going to be thinking he's going to finish Marc-Andre super easy, and a ton of money's been coming in. And I told myself, I was like, watch, Pyfer is going to finish minus 300 or higher by the time the fight starts. And sure enough, look at the screen. He is minus 300 right now on Wednesday. And I think he will go even higher now. I think he's going to get up to minus 320. I wonder when the buyback is going to happen on Marc-Andre. At what point do people say this is too much? This is too much. Give me Marc-Andre to win that fight. Okay, so I'll tell you why it could be close, right? So yes, Pyfer's coming off his loss against Jack Hermanson in that main event, where, let's face it, man, he dropped the ball, he got a huge step up in competition, and he wasn't ready, man. He got schooled. He looked good in the beginning of that fight, but he failed, or he ended up tailing off and you know, failing toward the end of that fight. And that's one thing that we got to mention, man. Joe Pyfer, after the first, you know, let's say 7.5 minutes, is not the same fighter. So that's one thing he definitely needs to work on. His cardio, his ability to be that same fighter in that second and third round as he is in the first. He needs to improve that, because in the first round, man, he looks like $1 million. He looks like he could beat anybody. Very quick, very powerful, a lot of good speed, and just physically imposing in that first round. That second round comes around, and he's not as fast. He's not moving as much. He's not moving his head as much. His hands are low. I mean, it's worrisome. So if and that's the thing, he's fighting a guy that's super durable, man. Marc-Andre Barriault is known for coming on strong late in fights. He can push a crazy pace. This guy can be in your face and just take your best shot. And then as you know, you're sitting there wondering, why isn't this guy going down? Why isn't he out of here? And he comes on strong in that second and third round. There's the round 3 power bar is a real thing, because you know, Marc-Andre has shown that later in fights he can come out strong, and he has a ton of crazy output. Look at this screen right here. Significant strikes landed per minute. 6.19 for Marc-Andre Barriault and 3.66 for Joe Pyfer. On one hand, to me, it's like, yeah, well, because Joe Pyfer is just sleeping, guys. Like when he lands, they're going out. It doesn't really give you a chance to, you know, add up your stats. Whereas Marc-Andre doesn't really have that power at all. Is obviously the more of a volume guy, but dude, you're doubling up someone in strikes. You're throwing twice as much strikes as the other guy. It's gonna look good for the judges. So unless Joe Pyfer can get Marc-Andre out here early, I do worry for him in that third round. Like, I got a feeling if this goes to round 3, Marc-Andre is gonna be that better fighter in round 3. But I don't think it gets there. I think Joe Pyfer finishes this fight in that second round or earlier. I think he knows he needs to get a bounce back fight, a bounce back win in this match here, and he's good. He's a very good, powerful striker, and he actually has very good grappling and offensive jiu-jitsu. Comes from a good gym. He's going to be ready for this fight. I listen to his podcast all the time, and he's a very cerebral fighter, right? So he's not someone out here like meathead, like, you know, just like, oh, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to sleep everybody. Like, he knows, man. He studies the game. He watches tape. He's not a dumb fighter. And Marc-Andre has experience on his side. He's coming off a loss against Chris Curtis where he just let Chris Curtis work more. But I think that Joe Pfeiffer is going to catch him on. I'm not selling Joe Pfeiffer yet. I'm not, throwing him to the trash. I'm not saying, oh, you suck. You lost to Jack Hermanson. Now you're a failed prospect, this and that. No. I think he wins this fight. I think he finishes Marc-Andre Barriault. I think he clubs and subs him in that second round. Oh, this line is different now. We have the main card starts now. The very first fight on the main card, guys. We have Ian Garry taking on Michael Venom Page. What just happened? Oh, no. I'm going to edit this out. Nah. All right, here we go. We're back. We have Ian Garry taking on Michael Venom Page in the welterweight division. Ian Garry comes in undefeated. Blue chip prospect, 14-0, minus 155 as a favorite on the money line, taking on Michael Venom Page, making his second walk in the UFC octagon, 22-2 record, plus 130 on the money line. Now, I think Ian Garry is gonna win this fight. I'm picking him to win this fight, and it's tough because I actually have a hot take. I don't even know if it's a hot take, but I have a feeling that this fight, for as much bad blood and trash talk that these guys are doing, I have a feeling that this fight could be boring, like really boring. Like a staring contest level boring, because Ian Garry, the way he fights, he's a very good striker, obviously, very dynamic, very quick, and obviously very dangerous on the feet. And Michael Venom Page is more of a counterpuncher, man. This guy has a crazy stance, crazy level type of striking here. He has his hands low, obviously like Kevin Holland, kind of like a mirror image in that last fight. Hands by his pockets, doing this weird head bobbing, trying to bait you. A real good sniper. The thing that worries me here for Ian Garry is Michael Venom Page has that jumping right hand that he likes to throw, and he caught Kevin Holland multiple times in that fight. And man, Ian Garry has been hurt in the UFC. We saw him get dropped by that Asian guy, but he bounced back and finished that Asian dude, relatively easily. So while there has been one moment of Ian Garry just getting cracked, slumped, dude, slumped, bad. I understand that happened, but I don't think he's some sort of no chin having fighter. This guy is undefeated for a reason. And one thing I like about Ian Garry is that for as much as he wants to be a star, right, he wants to be an entertainer, he also wants to remain undefeated. He also wants to win that belt. He strikes me as someone that wants to be a champion, right? He's not in the UFC to put on fun fights, get his money, and leave. He wants to be a world champion, man. And so that strikes me as someone that's going to do whatever it takes to win. If he goes out there and tries to grapple and wrestle Michael Venom Page, it wouldn't shock me, because in my opinion, he does have a grappling advantage. We haven't seen it in the UFC, but in Cage Warriors, Ian Garry has shown good fight IQ, especially on the mat. He can take people down, especially in the clinch. And I think that this fight will have moments in the clinch, along the cage, along the warning track, where Michael Venom Page can be taken down. One thing that I don't like from Michael Venom Page is that he has absolute crazy chicken legs, man. This guy's thins this wide. It's insane. Never does leg days, never done Stairmaster, has never done a squat in his life. And Ian Garry can just chop those legs. We saw what he did to Neil Magny. And I wouldn't be shocked if that happens again. But obviously, I think Michael Venom Page is ready for that. I feel like he's going to be able to check those leg kicks, obviously, from Ian Garry. But that's where the takedowns come from. So I do think that Ian Garry has a grappling advantage in this fight. I think he's, even on the feet. I don't think that Michael Venom Page is just going to style on him on the feet. And Ian needs to win this fight, man. He's talking a lot of reckless stuff. So is Michael Venom Page. And I'm going with the young guy here, man. Michael Venom Page is 37 years old, almost 40 years old in this fight. Give me the young, undefeated prospect, Ian Garry, to win this fight in what should be his toughest test yet. This is the smallest line we've ever had on Ian Garry in the UFC. And if he wins this fight, he's probably going to be a sizable favorite in his next one. So give me Ian Garry to win that fight. Give me Ian Garry to win a decision. Up next, we have a women's bantamweight fight between MARYA Bueno Silva and MACY CHIASSON. Bueno Silva comes in as a pick'em. She has a 10-3-1 record, currently minus 110 on the money line. And MACY CHIASSON comes in with a 10-3 record, currently minus 110 on the money line. This line has been going all over the place, guys. Bueno Silva was the favorite. She got bet all the way down to plus 100, and now a little bit of money coming back in on her, and the line settling at pick'em. For me, I'm picking Bueno Silva in this fight. I don't feel crazy confident or have any crazy indication or I don't need to rush to the window and lay money on this buy low spot on Silva here, because I understand what MACY can do, man. MACY should be the minute winner in this fight. She should be the fighter that's pumping that jab out, pumping the strikes out, looking good for the judges, and throwing more volume in Silva's face, which isn't the worst thing for Silva, because Silva is comfortable fighting off her back foot and looking for that counter shot. She is very powerful, very physical, which is one thing I really like in this fight. While MACY CHIASSON is the bigger fighter in this fight, she's a way more physically imposing fighter in this fight. I think that MARYA Bueno Silva is a better athlete. I think that she's a better athletic fighter in this fight than MACY, even though MACY has that bigger frame, So Silva off her back is a menace. If Macy Chiasson does go out there and tries to grapple Silva, Silva has good jiu-jitsu off her back. She's very active. She's not a type of fighter that's trying to, hug and hold until the bell, and then start the next round on the feet. She's active, man. She's looking for legs. She's looking for sweeps. She's looking for elbows, obviously triangles and submissions from bottom. But I wouldn't be shocked if Silva herself looks to initiate the clinch along the cage and really hold Macy along the cage from there and do damage, making it dirty along the clinch. That wouldn't shock me at all. I'm going with Silva in this fight. But man, one thing I gotta say is that I picked her in her last fight, and she totally dropped the ball in her title fight. She looked horrible after the first round in that fight, and I knew she was gonna lose. When Bruce Buffer was doing the intros, he was like fighting out of blah blah blah, blah blah blah. He's like doing the intro for her, and she's like screaming, like yelling, dude, veins coming out of her head, like her neck, just crazy screaming. Right, goes out there, wins round 1, and then just adrenaline dumps, no gas, no stamina, nothing. Looked fucking horrible. So that's not good, man. So she looked terrible in her last fight. Hard to look worse. So give me Silva to win that fight. I think she gets right here. Never been impressed with Justin Bieber right here, Macy Chiasson. Give me Silva to win a decision or win via 3rd round submission. Sneaky bet there, but I'm going to play it safe. Give me Silva decision. Up next, we have a light heavyweight fight between Anthony Smith and Roman Dolidze. Anthony Smith comes in Lionheart with a 38-19 record, currently plus 115 on the money line. Roman Dolidze comes in with a 12-3 record, currently the favorite at minus 135. So this is where the short notice fights really take off. The next 3 fights are all going to be short notice. Every single fighter from here on out is going to be on short notice. And I had a tweet, when this line came out, Roman Dolidze was minus 170, right? So he was a minus 170 favorite. So money's coming in on Anthony Smith, making Dolidze now minus 135. And that was my initial reaction. When I saw Roman Dolidze at minus 170, I was like, whoa, wait a second. How? Like, Roman's a 185er. This is at light heavyweight at 205. Anthony Smith's way bigger, and more naturally the 205er than Roman Dolidze is. And don't get me wrong, Roman's a freaking tank. This guy is built, he is stacked. Don't get me wrong, he's fought at 205 before. It's not like he's never been here before, but he's a 185er. Like, he fights his fights more recently at 185. So when I saw that the guy that was a 185er going on short notice up a weight class to fight Anthony Smith be minus 170, I was like, wait, hold on a second. Okay, like, what are they seeing? And I was like, okay, Anthony Smith, a ton of, durability issues, been knocked out a million times, been hurt to the body a million times, been taken down a million times, like, with ease. And that's what Roman does, man. Roman hits hard, has a ton of power, those crazy overhand rights, and can blast double anybody on the planet, man. This guy's takedowns are strong. He can shoot, like, powerful and get to guys' hips and get guys down. But I was like, hey, man, like, Anthony Smith can grapple. Like, he has good jiu-jitsu. I know people want to, clown on him, getting hell on his back. But I have faith in his jiu-jitsu, and he's a bigger guy. Like, he's a bigger guy, and he was scheduled to fight before Roman was. Anthony Smith was supposed to fight Jamal Hill and Carlos Olberg after that. Or no, sorry, he was supposed to fight Carlos Olberg, and he was already on the card, right? So then Olberg got hurt, and they brought in Roman. So, like, I know they're both short notice, but he had a little bit of like a head start, you can say, I'm not sure if Roman was preparing for another fight, if he had like a fight offer or what, or if he was in camp. But he's going up a weight class, so that tells me right away, like, he didn't, like, obviously he's not going to make 185 for Anthony Smith, Anthony Smith, the 205er. So that probably favors Roman. He's not going to have to cut weight as much here in this fight. I mean, I was shocked to see that Roman's also 35 years old. Anthony Smith is like 50 years old in fight years, but he's also 35. This guy's over 50 professional fights. It's funny, there's on Embedded, they catch Anthony Smith kind of like explaining to his teammates, like, yeah, man, like, now if I'm fighting Roman, this 185er. And his teammate Cody Brundage is like, hey, man, like, you have 50 fights, MMA. It's not like you haven't seen anything. Like, there's very little that he hasn't seen, at this point in his career. Man, I'm going with Roman Dolidze in this fight, but I knew I was right. I knew he shouldn't have been minus 170. At minus 135, I do like that a bit more. But guys, Anthony Smith is bigger. He's more natural 205er. He can wrestle off his back. He's not the worst guy with the jiu-jitsu. And on the feet, he's way better than Roman Dolidze. The only thing that Roman Dolidze, in my opinion, on the feet has is power, man. Anthony Smith can throw way more, like, output than Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze just has an overhand right. This guy, overhand right, jab, overhand right. This guy just loves throwing his overhand right, looking for that kill shot. And then, yeah, while it does help you get the guard high and then shooting on takedowns, I think Anthony Smith, isn't dumb enough to just get knocked out by someone like Roman. So this could be close, man. This could be close. This could be the parlay buster again. Anthony Smith coming off a huge parlay buster in his last fight. I don't think it happens. I'm going with Roman Dolidze, but I am worried that he loses this fight. Give me Roman to win this fight. Give me him to win via decision in that 3rd round, be a total gas bag, and look dead in that 3rd round. But I think he squeaks it out. I think he wins the first 2 rounds. and he wins the decision. But man, that's going to be a close fight. I would not blame anybody out there for taking Anthony Smith. And if you already did, good for you, man, because I'm sure you could have had a better money line than plus 115. Up next, man, a banger, man. The co-main event of the evening. We have a featherweight fight. We have Brian Ortega taking on Diego Lopes. Brian Ortega comes in with a 16-3 record, currently plus 125 on the money line, and Diego Lopes comes in with a 24-6 record, currently minus 150 on the money line. And this should be a good fight because it's the stylistic matchup. On one hand, you have Brian Ortega, who has that jiu-jitsu base. He has that submission base for his game, but his striking's come a long way, man. To see him fight Korean Zombie the way he did was super impressive, man. Even in his last fight against Yair Rodriguez, he got whooped in that first round. He was getting rocked all over the place in that first round. Survives, is able to withstand, is able to show his incredible Mexican, fight spirit and chin, and then come back strong and then absolutely dusted Yair Rodriguez. I had 3 units on Yair in that fight, and before the fight starts, Bruce Buffer's going, "You ready to fight? You ready to fight?" And Brian Ortega rolls his ankle. Like, he rolls his ankle bad and looks at his corner like, "Hey, man, I just rolled my ankle." And Kron Gracie's like, "Dude, like, who cares? Like, you gotta fight still, And then goes out there, almost gets knocked out in that first round, comes back and wins the fight. Like, if you're not a fan of Brian Ortega, you're a hater, bro. Like, this dude is awesome. And he's fighting Diego Lopes, who's like this crazy ascending prospect in the UFC, who's just taking the UFC by storm, getting crazy amounts of finishes, getting crazy amount of highlight wins, in a lot of fights that people think are going to be close. It's so funny to see him now against probably I'd say Ortega's better than Sodiq Yusuff. Diego Lopes is probably a bigger favorite against the best fighter he's fought in the UFC. Kind of weird. Like, the best fighter he's fought so far is Brian Ortega, and now he's the biggest favorite he's ever been in the UFC at minus 150. So that's definitely weird. A little bit of recency bias in my opinion, but can Diego choke Brian Ortega? Sure. But Brian Ortega's been, grappling from day one, quite literally, with some of the best guys on the planet. Like, I don't think it's such an open and shut case. Like, hey, man, Diego Lopes has good, no-gi jiu-jitsu. He's going to be able to submit Brian Ortega. Like, I don't think it's going to be that easy, man. I don't think he's ever been submitted in the UFC. Ortega's legit off his back, man. Like, he's very comfortable, very calm off his back. This guy's jiu-jitsu is sick. Like, I mean, who doesn't know that, like, by now? Like, Ortega is very good off his back. But on the feet, Diego Lopes definitely has a power advantage. Brian Ortega does not have very much power, but he does have more output and clean boxing, man. If you watch him progress throughout his career, like I said, like, his striking is getting better. Like, it's not bad. Brian Ortega's boxing is not bad. And if Diego Lopes gets extended, what does this fight look like? Diego Lopes is used to going out there and just cracking people, submitting them, putting them in crazy submissions early in fights, not really having to go to the judges' scorecards. Can Diego Lopes win a decision in this fight? It's going to be tough. So, for me, my pick is Diego Lopes. I think that he does ascend in this fight. He continues to win in the UFC. Brian Ortega was talking about how he, accepted a fight at 155 and then took this fight on short notice. I believe the UFC wanted to put Ortega on that Sphere card here in Vegas coming up in a couple months. But then they had to, add some, fire to this card, so they put this fight together. And I just feel like if you're getting ready for 155, you're kind of bulked up, you're kind of big, kind of stacked. Now you have to make that weight cut again back down to 145. And even the more kind of a red flag for me was Brian Ortega was talking about how there's no title shot for him at 145. No matter if he wins, loses, no matter what's going on, like, he's kind of like in back of the line here, which kind of definitely hurts your motivation. It's like, what are you training for? Like how do you keep yourself going if you're not going to be champion or get a chance at least anytime soon? So for me to hear that he's considering going out to 155, it's kind of like a weird thing to hear. Whereas Diego, he's the bigger guy, man. He's going to be the way bigger guy in this fight. And he's another guy that I'm surprised makes 145. This guy is stacked. If he ever pops for steroids, I wouldn't be shocked. This guy is chiseled. But I think that Diego Lopes strikes me as someone that's probably more in shape in the offseason than someone like Brian Ortega. No offense. So I think he'll be a little bit more ready for this fight. A great fight, a great test for Diego. Give me the young buck here, the Diego Lopes cut my life into pieces haircut, wins again. Give me Diego Lopes for the first time to win via decision in the UFC. Up next, now, do me a favor, guys. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the video so far. I really want to hear from you guys, who you guys have this week. And yeah, man, without any further ado, let's get to the main event. In the main event, we have a rematch between Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka. Pereira comes in the champion with a 10-2 record, currently minus 135. While Jiri Prochazka comes in with a 34-1 record, currently plus 115. Now, again, short notice for both guys. It's supposed to be Conor McGregor versus Chandler. That fight obviously doesn't happen. Conor is injured. The UFC calls these guys up. These guys were supposed to headline the Australia card in a couple months, and they both said, screw it, let's go, let's run it, title fight here. Big red flag though for me is Alex Pereira saying that he had injured his toes in a Jamal Hill fight. He's coming off, knocking out Jamal Hill, sending him to a different dimension. But then he came out and said that in that fight he had broken a couple toes. So I expected him to take some time off. Then to see him come in on short notice here and fighting with hurt toes, which is why Conor McGregor pulled out, is because he had his toes hurt. Kind of funny that the guy taking his place also has his toes hurt, but he's still gonna fight. But the reason it's a red flag for me is that Alex Pereira really needs those leg kicks. He really needs those calf kicks to get his opponent to move and to keep the output going, because if he's just throwing strikes, that doesn't favor Alex. Alex needs those leg kicks, man. He loves slamming that calf and really limiting the mobility of his opponents. And that's one thing that's definitely going to help him in this fight. It's so crazy, guys, to watch JIRI Prochazka fight. Like, there's nothing about this guy that screams like elite high-level striker. Man, this guy has no striking defense whatsoever, doesn't check leg kicks, doesn't block punches, just goes forward and eats everybody's shot. In his last fight, I have no idea how he didn't get knocked out. I bet against him in that fight. And again, man, he just uses this crazy technique of going forward, sticking his chin forward like a battering ram, and then catching the opponent, like hurting the guy, knocking him out, landing big shots. Like, this guy's finish rate's insane. 30 finishes, something crazy like 26 knockouts. I mean, this guy can kill anybody on the planet, and that's what worries me, man. Alex Pereira has hurt toes, but also he doesn't really have the best striking defense, man. For as much as everyone wants to talk about how good of a kickboxer he is, how crazy of a dangerous striker he is, he's hittable, man. Like, he leaves his head to be hit, and he's getting up there in age, 36 years old, another wake cut at this point on short notice. I don't know, man. I'm going with JIRI. I picked Alex in the last fight when these guys fought. I had him winning via knockout in the second round, and that's exactly what happened. But, man, I think JIRI catches him, man. I think JIRI gets him in the rematch here, and then we get a trilogy fight. So the reason I'm picking JIRI is because I know he's durable. Like, I know he can take a punch because that's all he does. Like, he does not block punches. And I know Alex has something that's not 100%. Who knows? Maybe he's totally fine by now. He's healed up, wherever, throwing kicks. Maybe the first strike he throws in the fight is a kick. I wouldn't shock me. But I think he has to be on point. Full camp, on point, good weight cut, fully healthy to look his best. Whereas JIRI, like, is a wild man. Like, he is like a crazy wild samurai dude, which honestly is kind of annoying. But he trained at Bangtao MMA. He worked on his wrestling. He was able to grapple against Pereira, which is funny because if you watch that fight, Pereira has like a standing guillotine and DC does it again. Oh, that's tight. That's tight. And he just popped. I don't think he had his hands locked. So he had like a one-arm guillotine. And DC's yelling that's tight. So that was kind of funny. But I wouldn't be shocked if JIRI goes again and tries to grab Alex Pereira and put him down on the mat. I'm going with JIRI. I'm going with Anu. I don't feel crazy confident because I know Alex has that depth touch, but give me Prochazka. And guys, Alex Pereira earlier in the week was -165. He's all the way down to -135. So money's coming in on JIRI, and I get it, guys. I agree with that line movement. I'm going with JIRI Prochazka to win this fight via knockout and be the new UFC light heavyweight champion. So that'll do it this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I want to give a shout out to the Florida Panthers for cashing us our max $500 bet on them to win the Stanley Cup. They won the first 3 games, lost the next 3, made us sweat, go all the way to Game 7, but they got it done. The Oilers lose the Stanley Cup. McDavid has no mid-cups. And yeah, man, that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.